and they're always like, down and out about their haircut.
Bottom line, I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs to someplace, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
This sounds very gay.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out, and waiting for the broadcast. And for those of you who are listening to the show, you may not even know you were waiting for the broadcast. Sometimes you're driving in your cars, you're not looking at the time. You are currently on iHeartRadio listening to guys from Queens, and we finally came on. So welcome. I'm having trouble with my video software here. Let me see if I can get the camera on me. We are the hair loss guys. You're looking at me right now if you're watching the broadcast. I am a consumer advocate for men and women suffering with hair loss, the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, and I have been doing this gig for more than 20 years. As a young man, I started to lose my hair. I was 21 years old and realized that, holy shit, I'm going bald. Why is all my hair falling out? I gotta get you a mic. I gotta get you a cough button, dude.
I know.
And actually, I need to use one right now. And
cough.
And back in the day, because as wonderful as I may look and young, I'm just kidding. Back in the day, you're talking about we're talking about the late 80s when this started. And hair was everything. I was not prepared for dealing with hair loss because I didn't realize my father was actually bald in the back because he was relatively tall and he had a hairline that he was able to comb back. I didn't see a lot of baldness in my family. My uncles, my father's brothers all had a head of hair. My uncles on my mother's side had hair. But what I wasn't told was that all of my father's uncles were bald starting around the age of 21. And his father had like 5 brothers, all Norwood, like 6s by the time they were, before they were 30. So that was the missing link. So that's why it kind of hit me like, from out of the blue. Did not know it was going to happen. So it really devastated me. And I initially thought that maybe I was alone in this as far as the way that I felt about this, because everyone's telling you, listen, it's not a big deal. Big deal. You're losing your hair. It's what happens to men. I'm like, but I don't want it to happen to me. And I had no one to guide me, no one to talk to, no one who really was willing to listen or who had the information or knowledge to really do anything for me. So that's why I started this journey. And that's why I'm behind this mic today. And that's why, The Bald Truth has been published in 5 languages. And it's because of my passion for knowledge and knowing that there is really no honest information out there. To this day, it's hard to find. And we're talking about 21 years later, or since I started this, but like 30 years since I started to lose my hair. I'm 53 years old. What helped me was an FDA-approved drug, which was not FDA approved initially. It was FDA approved for another implication or application, and that was for benign prostate hyperplasia or enlarged prostates, and that drug was called Proscar. Now you may recognize it as finasteride or Propecia. That's why I'm behind this mic. That's what changed my life. If you guys, your anti-Propecia guys, don't like me telling my true story, then I'm sorry. But it is something that has helped me tremendously. Now, do I know if I'm going to die of some rare form of cancer because I've been on this drug for 25 years? I have no clue. But as of today, I've had no adverse side effects. I've been able to maintain a really good amount of hair. But if you're watching the show, this is a partial comb over, slap a little paint on the back, a lot of hairspray. But I would say that I should be pretty bald by now if it wasn't for making the right decisions. This man on your left, Joe Tillman.
Just a guy.
Yeah, just a guy. Original hair transplant mentor who, we're not that, we're like 5 or 6 years apart, but started around the same time, same age initially. He was a little younger than me when he knows his hair loss, but he went down the route or route, depending on what part of the country you're from or world, that I chose not to go. It's trying to be nice about it.
Thank you.
I somehow had the wherewithal to step back and say, look.
Just say it. Joe was a dipshit. I wasn't.
Yeah, Joe fucked up. I chose not to have surgery at a young age. And I was given that option that back then it would have really destroyed me, like it did our friend Joe Tillman, the original hair transplant mentor, who is actually not in this studio, but live in our studios, in TBT Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. This is the black magic that is the bald truth, and someone will take that out of context. But as far as our ability,
I like that sleight of hand plug there, black magic.
Yeah.
You're using black magic gear.
Black magic gear, yeah. So, but they're not paying us to talk about them.
True, they're not.
Yeah,
and it's interesting, the idea or the history of my hair transplant journey and why I'm called a hair transplant mentor, sometimes self-proclaimed, whatever. And it's funny because there's some comments online. It's like, Joe's had how many surgeries, and why is he a hair transplant mentor? The guy couldn't get his shit straight. It's like, it's because I couldn't get my shit straight.
Yeah. The reason I chose not to be the mentor,
I've been on the other end of this,
is because
I know this shit.
I chose not to have surgery. Joe got fucked up.
Yeah.
That's why. Now, do I know where all the bodies are buried? Yes. Do I know every nuance of this industry and what you should avoid? Yes. Was I the guy? I hate even saying the first, but it's the truth. Was I the guy, the old G in this, the original gangster? And I'm sorry, I can't even use that word. That'll be taken out of context. In this industry, exposing the truth about those who are out there fucking people up? Yes.
Absolutely.
But I did so because I chose to not get fucked up and write about the industry and expose it for what it was. Now, when I did that, and that book was published in 1998, I got a lot of shit. I was a marked man. I was in the crosshairs of the industry at the time, and it was not pretty. Now, the internet was in its infancy, and there was some shit going on online, but, I had a very big platform. I had, Simon & Schuster published my book. I was on the radio locally in New York, which is the biggest market for radio. And then it was nationally syndicated, and all of a sudden everything just fucking took off, and people were very unhappy. But I will tell you this. There's rumors and innuendos and stuff out like that. And there was only one actual a doctor who was upset by his patients calling in, who attempted to sue me. And this is before I started the IHRS. This is before I had even a web presence. This is before anything. And the reason I say that is that And by the way, took his ass out too. But and I did that pro se. That was a great learning experience as a young man to really understand how to navigate the legal system when it came to all this. But the reason I say that is that even the big guys, the Bosleys, the medical hair restorations at the time, the guys who we were just going out there and naming names, talking about them, they realized that it's probably better to be friends with people in our position and what I do, and come to the table and say, hey, look, what can we do to make things better? And you know what? You look at Bosley today. I don't care what anybody says. Well, I'm not a fan of some of the fact that, there's commissions and people are working on, they may be selling to younger patients. They have evolved to the point where I have to say that they're one of the few clinics out there in general, so the large chain clinics, that are actually doing FUE legally now.
Yeah, it's the irony is just incredible right now.
Yeah.
What's going on.
And they have a lot of happy patients. Now, I don't work with them, and I made that clear that I could not accept all of their physicians as part of any type of a deal. It would have to be a case-by-case basis, and that's something that they may not, they've alluded to that they don't think, that, it's great for their brand, and I understand that. But there's some good work going on there. And what does that tell me? That, there are people who are just willing to listen. And, we're providing a service not only for the consumer, but for hair transplant surgeons who want to do the right thing and not have to deal with unhappy patients, not have to deal with getting sued by unhappy patients, not have to deal with all kinds of bullshit that you have to deal with in the 21st century as a hair transplant clinic. And that's my opening spiel.
Not bad.
Thank
you.
It's
pretty good.
All right.
I'll take that. It was a 13-minute opening spiel, and I think I got the message across.
Fucking timed it.
As did everyone else. No, just kidding.
Like, I used to do this program alone for years. And when I was on the radio, my job was you saw that on-air light?
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't have any dead air. You had it. Didn't matter if you had a phone call, and we have calls on the line. 888-659-3727. Give us a call. We have one line open. But if I had to go 2 hours without a phone call, which never happened, that would have been my job. And if I wasn't able to fill that space, I would not have been able to stay on the air.
I'm a huge fan of the show Frasier, and he's an online radio psychiatrist. And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, we got dead air," and I immediately think of our little show. Dead air.
Yes.
Can't have it.
Can't have it.
And when they say it, I understand for the first time.
Well,
kind of cool.
Being that I think things have changed now that we're online, and there's a lot of people who are watching us or watch the rebroadcast, or I should say the podcast of the show. And for those who are listening, it's a little more difficult when we're tinkering on our computers trying to hook up because we lost your feed and stuff like that. But you could be more organic now that you're online than when I was on the radio.
Of course. Speaking of Frasier, I think it's FSK in the chat room says it's a legendary show. It's being rebooted, or it's being considered for reboot. That's a good thing.
Frasier, that's
Yeah. I don't know. Did you ever watch that show?
I love that show.
It's one of the best shows on television ever in history, anywhere.
Fucking love that show. And I have a chair that I take around with me myself. I understand
take your recliner?
Yeah, I understand that. Can I take a phone call?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Who's this and where are you calling from?
Good. This is Mike calling from Orange County, California.
Mike from Orange County, California. Welcome.
Hey, you're the first-time caller. Excited.
Well, listen, we're excited to have you, man. What's going on?
Not much. I'm about to go in and get my second procedure with Dr. Christopher Verona from Zeri Medical. I was just calling in to see if you guys heard any good things about him or if he's been on your radar at all.
You're in Orange County and you're going to Chicago?
No, they actually have
No.
He has a practice, and he flies here and does work. He has a practice in Orange County as well. Yeah,
he's got a site in Newport.
I would say that for a guy who's working for a clinic, with multiple doctors, this guy really has his head on straight. He is good.
Okay.
He's good at what he does. He is really. Are you having strip or FUE?
FUE. I cut my hair really short to a 0 on the side.
Okay. Well, that's good. So he is a big believer in doing the work himself, or a lot of the work himself, or being very involved with it, and also using instrumentation that might not be some of the stuff that you see marketed out there.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he's not part of the IHRS, there's a chance that he will be in time. He's reached out, and I've known this guy for a long time. At one point, when he was, I don't want to get into the whole story, but I could say that I think that he's a good doctor. He's really caring, and he has a really good sense of aesthetics. And I don't mean to oversell. I don't mean to oversell him, but you've already had a surgery with him, so you're going back. You must be happy.
Right. Well, actually, my original surgery was in Pasadena. And it was a pretty good procedure. I kind of feel like I didn't get quite the growth that I was expecting. So I decided to look around and kind of shop around, and I found Dr. Verona.
Now,
kind of really hit it off.
Was it an FUE? Was it an FUE procedure?
Yes, I had 3,600 grafts transplanted to Zone 1, Zone 2, primarily Zone 1.
Who did it?
A lot of hair left. Believe it or not, it was a PA who works out of that office. He works under Dr. It's kind of a hard name to pronounce. Is it Matt Tashidi or something? It's called LA Hair Clinic.
Yeah, I was going to say it's LA. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you this, and this is not to this is the way that the industry is moving, and you had a lot of hair moved.
Yes, I did.
So, let me ask you this: how does the donor look? And you didn't feel you got the growth in the recipient. How does your donor look now?
The donor is excellent. Like I said, I cut it to a 000, and it's almost not noticeable unless you're really, really up on it and looking for it. So with that part, I was really impressed.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah. As far as the recipient site, it's not cobblestone, but I did see like some bumps kind of. And when I talked to them about it, they said that's because there's hair there now, so you kind of see where it kind of comes out of the skin. Which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Well,
it looked a little bit like an orange peel, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
Not that degree, but kind of that look.
And that is
that's a classic description.
Yeah, that's a classic description of compression and cobblestone. It's a milder form of cobblestoning because you are dealing with much smaller grafts.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's very mild, subtle, but I have a lot of hair. Once the hair grew in, then it's not even noticeable. But when I was going through that ugly duckling phase, I was kind of freaking out.
Well, that part is kind of normal for any. It doesn't matter what clinic you go to, what tool they use for the incisions.
Yeah.
The recovery period, the scalp is just going through all kinds of changes, and a lot of that makes it look
inflamed.
Yeah, it's inflamed, and it's the tissue itself. It'll have bumps, it'll have pits, it'll have an uneven surface. But that's just the healing process, and it will usually smooth out to some degree on some patients more than others as it continues to mature up to a year to year and a half. As far as the texture will change. Yeah, so that's fairly normal. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Like I said, overall, I was happy with the result. I looked night and day better, especially in pictures. But I guess I was just looking to find someone else just to kind of see who else was out there. And I ran into Dr. Verona, and he just seemed like a great guy. I was really surprised he wasn't part of your organization, Spencer. But I guess
I can tell you that. I can tell you that he may be pretty soon, and I would say that he's good. I have a lot of I have a lot of respect for his passion. I have a lot of respect for certain things that he's rejected in the, let's just say, in the environment that he's currently working in, and that he really seems to be putting the patients first.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
your result is going to be better than what you have right now. I mean, there's no way of telling, but I can say that he's got his mind in the right place, and he really cares for his patients, and he has the right skill set to get the job done. And
I can say that I've never met the man, I've never spoken to the man, but over the past, I'd say 4, maybe 6 months, I've had a couple of inquiries about him, and I've had a couple of people reach out to me saying that they did have experience with him. I have done a little bit of digging online just to learn more about him, because I like to learn more about doctors that seem to be, at the beginnings of making a name for themselves. And I have not seen anything negative, and what I have heard has been positive. So that's a limited exposure I've had to him, what I can report about it. So, all indicators that I've seen are that it's a good solid choice.
Okay, well, cool. That kind of puts my mind at ease a little bit. I realize anything could happen at surgery. Once you're cut, you're cut, right, Spence?
Well, absolutely. I'm glad you listened to that. And here's the good news for some people who think that, Joe is just, out there trying to sell transplants, or that, we only recommend people that are part of the organization. There are several doctors out there who are not part of the IHS, who may never have even applied to the IHS, who, if you asked me about, I would say he's a good choice.
Okay.
And same with me. It's like, doctors have applied or maybe not have applied to work with me. I have no problem recognizing talent. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, it'd be silly for either of us to sit here and say, if someone is obviously pretty good at what they do, that they're not good at what they do just because we don't work with them. It's kind of ludicrous. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, not a whole lot of exposure to him and what he does, but what I have had as far as exposure goes has been positive.
I will say he's pretty jacked too, if that helps. So, meaning that, if he's doing the surgery also, he's in good shape, he's going to be able to last. You're not dealing with some old dude.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
People don't realize that there's a tremendous amount of fatigue. That's why people don't end up doing a lot of it themselves, because these guys are just, you got a guy my age who doesn't take care of himself trying to do FUE, you're done, man. They'll be able to extract maybe 150 grafts, and then it's like, here you go. My back hurts. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have one more question. Going back to my first surgery, I didn't realize it was, I guess, legal in California for a PA to do the entire surgery without a physician.
It's actually legal everywhere in every state for a PA to score the skin, to use certain, even scalpels on the skin. And so what's happening in the industry, and you're lucky that you had a PA, because a lot of times there are just technicians that don't even have that level of medical training who are doing performing the surgery. But what is going to be happening, and I really have to say that I read an article about this. A lot of the doctors in the field don't really understand that they have kind of allowed all this to happen. Now PAs are realizing, wait a second, I don't even need I don't even need to work under the auspices of a physician, and I can fucking open up my own clinic and perform surgery.
Yep.
And that's what's happening now. So the new normal of the hair transplant industry is going to be this. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a bad result. There's some really skilled people out there who are going to take the time to learn how to do it right. But what it's going to do is it's going to squeeze a lot of these doctors out, because they're going to be charging less, and they're going to just, it's going to be like a day at the spa for people.
Yeah. If I told you the price, Spence, you'd probably fall out of your chair with the cost per graft. So I really do think that's going to happen, unfortunately, for some of these physicians. It was $5 a graft.
Well, I'm not going to fall on my chair for $5 a graft, but still, that's still pretty good.
In California, I thought that was the best I found. I saw some as high as $9 a graft.
Well, when it comes to FUE, docs have tried to, the price has gone up because it is more labor intensive, and they're continuing to try to keep that up. But that is going to, I believe, and I'm not saying that this is right, because I do think there's a certain skill set and a lot of training involved, but I believe that's going to end up being like the average. Now people are competing for price. So So you're going to have guys who are
Yeah.
board-certified plastic surgeons and facial plastic and reconstructive surgeons who are going to use those credentials to leverage trust. And then they're going to price these other guys out of the market. So these guys are fucked. They have no clue that they're just done. So I'm glad that you what is Dr. Verona charging you?
Dr. Verona, $6 a graft,
Okay.
which is down from their original $8 when I initially saw him. I think they saw what I originally paid for my first transplant, and they wanted to compete for the business, which I guess as a consumer is a pretty good good deal, right?
Which is actually very interesting. I'm going to isolate this because these guys need to hear this, Joe. That is, if you were going to get a fucking heart transplant, do you think you'd be able to negotiate the price? Or if you're going to get a facelift. Right.
Well, the doc down the street said he could transplant my heart for half that.
Yeah. If someone goes in to get a facelift, they're going to say, Dr. So-and-so is willing to do it for this much. Even though it's still cosmetic surgery, these plastic surgeons would be like, go fuck yourself. Go with him. Get fucked up.
Pretty much.
Right. So it really shows a level of desperateness that's going on in this field. But with that said, for you, I'm glad you got a better price, and I'm glad that you found the doctor that I think is really good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the surgery. The second time when I went in to go see them, I actually didn't even ask for the discount. They just asked what I paid for my prior procedure, and they said, well, this is what we can do. And I was like, well, great.
Well, the reason why they didn't ask is because they're used to being hit with that question. What kind of discount can I get?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and that's the sad state of it. I understand everyone wants to save a buck. It makes perfect sense, but this is indicative of the issue that's affecting these clinics. It sounds to me like they've actually got that built into every presentation for everyone that's already had a surgery with someone else. Ask them up front, what'd you pay for your other surgery, so you can match it.
Or what they do is they give you their price. And, then they kind of see what your reaction is, and they kind of put that into their, into their margins.
They pad it.
So they know that they can do it and make their margins at $6 or $5 a graft, but they will give you the price that they're asking and see how you react. Yeah. So sometimes that's the case. But whatever, fuck it. You got a good price, and you're going to a good doctor. But like and we say all the time, you never know how it's going to go with anybody. So, let's keep our fingers crossed. I think you made a good decision. And, let us know what happens.
Okay, I'll definitely call back. I appreciate your guys' time, and keep up the good work. A lot of us are out there listening, and we're just taking cues from you guys, trying to head in the right direction.
Well, I appreciate that, and I wish you the best of luck. And remember, I really believe this. Unless you really think you need this surgery, you don't need to follow through with it. So it's always going to be there for you.
That is true.
All right?
That is true. Okay.
All right, man.
Hey, real quick before you go, how many grafts are you getting?
The second time around, he recommended about 1,000 into the hairline.
Okay.
Well, when I say hairline, it's probably the first inch. So I guess
that's a hairline.
That
qualifies.
That's a hairline. Okay.
That's the hairline. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So and that's to thicken the existing hairline, not to lower it. Correct.
Exactly. Not to lower it, just to thicken it. And
no, he's a conservative guy. He wouldn't lower it. unless you had a really bizarrely high hairline. I don't think he would often lower it.
And is he going to be shaving the recipient area, or is he going in between your the existing hair at its current length?
That's the funny thing. I asked him, I said, Doc, I'm willing to shave if you need to. I did it on the first procedure. And he said, no, I actually prefer hair there because I like to see the angles that exist already and try to match those. So he's going to go in between, which I kind of like because, shaving the head was kind of brutal for a guy who's losing his hair already.
It's never easy. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And also you have to realize that when you go this route, it's possible that you're going to have some shock loss, even of your transplanted hair, but that will almost 100% grow back. I would say,
right.
I've never known anyone who's had their transplanted hair shocked where it didn't grow back. But just know that you may look worse before you get better, no matter what.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I definitely experienced that after that first procedure. I looked in the mirror and I said, "Oh my God, what did I do to myself?" You know.
Yeah.
But it did
The
grow
ugly
in,
duckling
and by
phase.
yeah, that ugly duckling phase is true, guys. It definitely happens. I'd probably say to most guys.
What did Dr. Verona think of your work?
He actually said it was good work.
Good.
He liked the angles. He liked it, and he saw what I saw. I just wanted some more density in the front to be able to do some different hairstyles.
And I think that's actually that's a very positive thing. And again, I think that also reinforces what we are trying to tell these doctors, that they are losing the reins. And there are people out there who are willing, young people who are willing to learn how to do this well, who don't have to be doctors.
Right.
And they're offering reasonable results at a good price. So these doctors better catch up. Otherwise, they're going to be selling, combs on the 6 train, because they are not going to be able to compete. So anyway, man, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for the call.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, we have a line open, 888-659-3727. There's a couple of guys holding on. Call back, and we will take your calls. I find that fascinating, being on this end of the business and being an insider, hearing someone who went to a PA, who can legally, she can open shop herself, or he, and he had a relatively good result.
Yeah. Look, when someone's trained properly and they've had the right oversight and they have the right attitude about the procedure, being a doctor doesn't matter. I mean, as long as it's legal and the person knows what they're doing, and they've got good hands, good eyes, good ethics, they can do a hair transplant just as good as anyone else. Because guess what? Hair transplant surgery isn't usually taught in college or in medical school.
That is correct, my friend. And also, I'm not going to say what skill I have, but I am a skilled tradesman.
I know that skill.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm a skilled tradesman. And it was a skill that I learned from childhood, and it takes a tremendous amount of eye-hand coordination and also strength. So I honestly believe that I can learn how to do this based on also the knowledge I have now. And doctors out there are going to be upset. They're going to hear this. They're not going to like it. But I believe that I can do it as well, if not better, than many of the doctors who are currently practicing today, just based on my sense of aesthetics, and my knowledge of the field, and also the fact that the skill that I had, even though you're not dealing with living tissue, was a lot more difficult than this particular procedure.
I actually, after I demonstrated my incision-making skills on a melon a couple times on video, and combined with my experience and understanding, I've had doctors say that I could actually do this quite well if I wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's the issue is, I mean, for me, it's not so much, whether it's a doctor or not. We're beyond that. The issue is whether it's simply legal or not, and if whomever's performing the surgery gives a shit about you as a patient. That's what matters. That's it.
Well, I think, and I 100%. Now, it's funny. We're having some stuff happening on a conversation with some doctors on social media. And, a doctor came to me. He wrote an article about, and is now they're trying to push this, changing the term follicular unit extraction to follicular unit excision. Now, when he contacted me before he published, asked me my opinion, I said, I was being gracious, but I also said, I told him I don't think it's going to make any difference, but it's not a bad step. I said it's a step in the right direction. That's what I told him. But, in retrospect, they were doing it anyway. It wasn't like they were asking me my permission. He just wanted me to kind of be on board and asked if I would support it.
Right.
But in retrospect, I think that I would be doing the ISHRS and also all of the physicians a tremendous disservice if I were to promote that. After, and I'm going to write another article about this, I told you about this, speaking to a board-certified plastic surgeon here in Beverly Hills, walked over to Century City after the show, Went to the mall, and there's this really great Asian restaurant. And I see this guy sitting outside with a very well-known, like, international celebrity. I had never met him in person, but I have interviewed him for my pilot shows of Plastic Surgery Live. And he recognized me, and he's like, Spencer? I'm like, yeah, what's up? Hey, man, how are you? You know? And he had already had a couple in him.
Yeah.
So he was asking me about the ISHRS and asking me whether or not he thought that it was worthwhile, you know, considering joining and stuff like that. And he said he went on their website and he was reading this whole thing about, you know, surgeries, you know, surgery should only be done by surgeons and live, you know, be proud, be loud, all that stuff. And he said to me, and this is after he had a couple of drinks, and you know, he's the guy, you know, he could drink. He's not, you know, he's not working. It was on the weekend. Actually, no, it was on Tuesday, but whatever. I don't know if he's doing surgery the next day. He said, these guys just handed me a gift. He said, I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon. They can't compete with that.
Yep.
And it just clicked. I'm like, they're throwing away all of their possible leverage because most of these guys don't have surgical residencies. They're not surgeons. They perform surgery, and any MD or DO is legally allowed to perform surgery of any kind. Actually, if someone wanted to have the balls to do a heart transplant, it would not be illegal for them to do that. You do not need a surgical residency to perform a heart transplant, as crazy as that seems. Now, most people wouldn't go to that extent, but they'll put in chins and breasts, and they'll do hair and shit like that. So
that's the equivalent of a basement scientist changing terminology of one word and not realizing that PhDs from the Large Hadron Collider would be far more qualified because of that name change than the basement scientists.
Well, I didn't even get to that point, and that's a good point. So this was just about their campaign about be loud, be proud, you know, whatever it is, which definitely sounds like you said, you know, it's from the movie Milk, you know.
Harvey Milk. I'm sorry, I just keep laughing every time I hear that.
Well, listen, I am. This is not. It's not a politically incorrect statement to say that, you know, that those are the type of campaigns that are more of a, let's say, a social awareness campaign as opposed to what they're trying to accomplish. Whoever they allowed to put this campaign together, and then whoever signed off on that, it was like, you guys need to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Because that is a very ineffective, actually self-sabotaging campaign. But with that said, so changing it to extraction, I understand the reason. They wanted to consumers to understand that it's a real surgical procedure, but that should have been done prior, you know, at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And two, at least I believe, I think it makes it more palatable for legislators and for state medical boards to say, okay, this is real surgery. Those are the only reasons. But even if those reasons are valid, no one's going to get it. No one's going to know the difference between follicular unit extraction or excision. I have to say, in retrospect, and Ricardo, please take this in the spirit that's meant, that was a very short-sighted move, and which is only going to damage the ability for your colleagues to make a living. Because now these surgeons have even more ammunition to say, and look at this. It's got to be, this is surgery. Why on earth would you allow someone who is not a surgeon to perform surgery on you? So all these turnkey guys now have a gift, the gift of leverage, leveraging their real credentials as surgeons.
And that's what's funny is, like, the majority of the doctors in ISHRS, I'm assuming based on the number of doctors I know personally, aren't actually surgeons.
No.
Not in the traditional sense of the word.
Well, they don't have a surgical residency. Like Alan Bauman is a general surgeon. There are some dermatologic, ENT guys who took a surgical residency. But most of the guys are not surgeons.
Right. But they want the world to know that only surgeons should be performing follicular unit excision.
Yeah, it shows the utter lack of and short-sightedness, and I wrote something on this thing, and guys, I'll take your call in a second. Sorry, this is important because a lot of the industry's listening. It's 888-659-3727. I wrote something on this social media conversation with these doctors, and there is a difference between being well-educated, being learned, and being what's the word that I used? Being qualified. And I can tell you that, at least in that organization, and this is not us against them, right now they have no one who is qualified to make the decisions that they're making because they're harming themselves.
Yeah.
Forget about harming the patient. And I mean, that's important, obviously, but I'm just saying strictly from a business point of view and a practice point of view and a societal point of view, you are damaging yourselves. Essentially, I mean, these are self-inflicted wounds. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, they're completely self-inflicted to the point, but also, and this is just my opinion on this, it doesn't make a difference one way or the other, because in the end, it's the consumer that's seeing this, and they have no clue what the difference is.
No.
And FSK in the in the chat room actually said it just pretty much perfectly. Just changing the name is stupid. Just rebrand HT. Hell, call it follicular unit erection.
Dude, I'm going to isolate this, and I got to send it to these guys, because that's the reality. This was a tremendous initiative that took a lot of time, 100 fucking meetings, a paper in the Hair Transplant Forum International, press releases to try to get people to pick up this information.
Which went nowhere.
Which went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah. It fell on its face.
I just can't comprehend it. You know, the incompetence and the utter, these people need to get, and it's not, in general, the doctors in general who are part of the organization, who are like running or officers or managing these things, they need to get past their ideological prejudices and realize they fucking need help from the right people so that we can actually help consumers.
Yeah.
And you can keep your doors open in the process.
Because in the end, when the consumers are, not even the consumers, but the clinics that they think that this is going to affect aren't even aware of the change, because it makes no difference to their bottom line. And all they're doing is continuing to grow and eat your lunch.
Absolutely. And that's why, sadly, and Dr. Verona is a very good surgeon, he felt the need to meet this guy's lower price, even though, just offer him, because they wanted to make sure that they got that surgery.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. That shouldn't be the case. I can guarantee you, and guys, maybe this isn't consumer friendly, but as a business person, if things were run correctly, not only would there be less walking wounded, but these docs would be getting their $9 a graft, and people would be happy to pay for it because they'd have a much better life.
Yeah.
It would be of greater value to them. It wouldn't be a commodity. Let's take a call. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. This is Josh from Pennsylvania. I called you guys about a month ago.
Hey, man.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, how's it going? So, our last conversation, I'm the one that had the 3 procedures with Dr. Haber, and didn't have the best of results and density-wise. I know you guys told me to look into scar revision surgery, which I have done. So basically, it seems like there's, 2 techniques to do that. You can either get FUE done into the scar, or do that other technique, starts with a T, a trichophytic. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's a trichophytic closure.
And let me stop you real quick. Trichophytic is not a technique. It is a small addition to an existing procedure. So what you're talking about, you're referring to a scar revision, which is where the scar is removed. The closure of any strip surgery, whether it be a scar revision or just a surgery on a virgin scalp never been touched before, trichophytic refers to the type of closure. So it's just a small little change. It takes no more than probably 20 seconds in the overall procedure itself of the closure. So just want to clarify that trichophytic is not a procedure; it's just a technique for closure of an already existing procedure.
It is part of it's a different way of performing the closure. So it's essentially they are removing part of the tissue to kind of create a ledge.
Yeah.
And as actually the person that brought it to hair transplant surgery was Dr. Paul Rose out of Miami, who named it the ledge closure. And this is a procedure, a type of closure that's used in cosmetic, or I should say plastic surgery a lot for different types of techniques. Go ahead.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Frichet brought it at a conference in Paris, and then Paul Rose came home. He made an adjustment to it and called it ledge.
It's very possible.
Yeah,
and
I think.
Don't you ever contradict me on my show again? No, that could be. You could be right about that. And I am getting old. So, but whatever it is, the reality is it was brought in from the mainstream plastic surgery world, and also. And we're talking about corrective, like reconstructive surgery world. Right. So it's a great procedure if it's done well. However, I believe it's oversold, and people think that they're going to get essentially no scar because hair is going to grow through this thinned out or ledged piece of tissue that is kind of overlapped on top of hair-bearing tissue. Yeah. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I've never seen 100% perfect trichophytic closure where all the hairs are growing through and it looks like there's no scar. Have you, Joe?
I have.
Fucking twice in one show. Well, I haven't. I haven't. But Joe has been in the trenches seeing patients day in and day out. So yeah. So tell me about it. Let's hear about your experience seeing a perfect trichophytic closure, Joe.
Well, you can't see the scar, and that's the definition of a perfect tricho. And sorry to hijack your call, but what happens when, or I'll tell you what doesn't happen.
By the way, it's our call.
When our call. Well,
yeah.
I was talking to the caller.
Oh, okay.
His call
3 times. Okay, it's all you.
Hey, man. All right. So this is what happens when you have a trichophytic. First off, there are 2 different kinds of trichophytic. There's the ledge closure, which Dr. Rose came up with, and I can't remember the exact. It's either the ledge from the bottom or the top, but whatever that is, then the other is just trichophytic closure, which is the bottom or the top. And what I mean by that is a ledge is created on the upper edge of the wound or the lower edge of the wound, and the opposing side of the wound, when it's pulled together, overlaps that ledge, and then the hairs that are trimmed from that ledge, they grow through the resulting scar tissue. So there's always a scar when you have a trichophytic closure, but the assumed success of the hairs growing through that tissue will grow through the scar tissue itself, thereby making the scar tissue extremely difficult to detect under close examination. So that's the goal. In reality, you have a number of issues that can pop up. The scar can actually stretch because of the slight increase in tension above and beyond what would normally be present, because that extra ledge means that the wound has to be closed even tighter than without the ledge. So that little difference can actually cause the scar to stretch wider than had the trichophytic not been performed to begin with. Another issue that can pop up is the hair that's supposed to grow through doesn't actually grow through because it's either not performed properly and the hairs are trimmed too deeply into the tissue, so the follicles are killed. Sometimes they can get trapped and grow into hairballs, so you have these sore nodules that develop underneath the scar tissue that are like cysts, and they have to be cut out. That's kind of rare. But then you also have the issue of the hair growing through, but that's actually the problem, because when the hair grows through, it can grow in one of two ways or both ways. It can grow darker than the surrounding hair, or it can grow in the wrong angle. Because when you look on the back of the scalp, like if you turn your head to the side, like I am right now, don't know if you can see, the hair is going down because it's growing at a flat angle vertically, pointing down towards the back of my neck, or your neck, or anyone's. But when that trichophytic closure is done, those hairs can sometimes grow at a right angle, sticking straight out. And so when you have really short hair or shorter hair, those hairs may not behave like the rest of the hair and can actually stand out and kind of be noticeable.
That was an extremely lucid and eloquent answer and description of the trichophytic closure.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean,
you
could have all those issues. I've seen those little, like cyst-like things. I've seen a lot of, at least because I'm getting images, just seeing some of them in person, a lot of the darkening, where while the scar tissue itself may look less visible, it looks like it's almost like you had SMP in the area. Yeah. And that is not uncommon. But once that hair grows out, if it's growing at the right angle, you're not going to see it anyway. So I guess what we want to let you know is that you can't be guaranteed. Yeah, well, it's not a procedure, and you can't be guaranteed that just someone who's using trichophytic closure that you're going to get a perfect scar.
I'd actually say that there's more chances that it won't turn out than there are that it will turn out to your benefit. Just saying. And it has a lower success rate on repair patients as well, if you've had a previous strip that you're trying to camouflage.
Just throw down the mic, dude. Just drop it.
And no, just kidding. Yeah. So yeah, bottom line is it's not all that in a bag of chips. When it works, when it works well, it's fantastic. But more times than not, it kind of works, and then it doesn't work. So I think that the percentage of all cases done, it's in the kind of works category. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I will. And, some of my questions were, if I do go to a doctor to get it excised out of there, and given that I have already had 3 procedures done, it has to be tight back there, correct? And so if I just get the scar removed and they close it again using that technique, there's probably a good likelihood that it's going to stretch to a wide scar again, correct?
Well, I think, it depends on how wide your scar is now and how tight or how little laxity you have. I mean, was your donor laxity judged to be adequate for another procedure, or did they say it's tight?
Well, yeah. So actually, I went to see Haber again in July about getting another procedure done on my back and crown, and he said he could take out. I mean, he felt my scalp and everything, and said he could take out at least another 1,000 grafts. So he didn't mention anything to me about the scalp being, overly tight or anything like that.
Right. Well, I mean, if he can saying he can get up to 1,000 grafts, then it is tight, because you're nearing the end of your strip, your FUT existence, I guess. So it's probably your last strip. And I think I recall telling you that if you're going to go in for a revision because you feel like the scar is too wide, then you should probably forego the idea of getting as many grafts as possible up to 1,000 grafts, because you're going to be compromising what little laxity you have left to get hair, when that laxity could probably be better served to give yourself a little bit of a cushion for a proper strip healing. And not to counteract anything that contradict anything that Dr. Haber's saying, because I don't know your case at all. But in general, that's what it tells me. Maybe you don't need more than 1,000 grafts for the crown. I don't know. But if you need more, and he's saying, well, we can get up to, then it means that, yeah, you're probably tighter than he'd like in the back, and that's the upper end of what he can get, I would weigh the pros and cons of getting more hair or having a better scar, because I think that in cases like yours, assuming it's what I think it is, sometimes it's better to cut your losses, to not try and take out the scar and get more hair, and maybe try an alternative approach, like maybe just explore FUE into the scar, and if you have the donor, that's where your crown grafts can come from. Do some FUE. Depends on it just depends on how much hair you got left overall outside of the strip zone, because FUE can take it from a wider area that's still considered to be safe, and you're not going to be compromising your laxity, and your scar won't get worse.
I agree, Joe. And after researching it more, and after the first time I called in, I've ultimately decided against getting another procedure done for my crown area. It was strictly just dealing with the scar I have now, and I also was going to, looking into getting FUE done into my scar as well. But I was wondering, so to do FUE, I also would need to go to get a consultation about this. But I was wondering, generally, how many grafts would they be putting into the scar? So, let's say I do get the FUE done. So now I'm going to have all those little punch marks on the back of my head. So it just seems like there's really no great solution to this.
Well, let's back up just a second. How old are you? Remind me how old you are.
So I'm 36.
Okay.
I've had 3 procedures done, and I just don't have. I have very fine hair, so I don't have the density.
Fine hair doesn't mean low density. Fine hair means a small diameter to your hair shaft, and in fact, finer hair usually has a higher density naturally. So do you have a low density, or do you have fine hair, or both?
I'd say both. I mean, after 3 procedures, I've had roughly right around 6,000 hairs transplanted, and it just if you were to see me, you wouldn't think that I've had 3 procedures done.
Okay. Well, I think that sorry. And the next question is, remind me: are you on medication? Are you taking finasteride? And if so, how's it working for you?
Yeah, so I was doing the ProScar and cutting it up. In the last call, you mentioned to me to consider upping my dosage, and so I'm taking half tablets now. Instead of 4. I'm also doing the Rogaine twice a day. So yeah, I'm doing all that I can to hold on to what I have.
And do you feel like that's working? Have you seen a decrease in shedding if you saw any to begin with?
In the
too early
last
to tell?
month, yes. I mean, it could be. I mean, not a scientific test, but just simply when I apply the Rogaine, just looking on my hand, there's not as much hair as there was before after I upped my medication.
Okay. I would say this. I would say, stay the course on the medication. Give it several more months to see how this works out for you at this dosage, at this frequency. And while you're doing that, look into these FUE options, look into the FUE into scar option. You're asking how many grafts it would take for the scar? Unknown. It could take 200 to 300, maybe more, maybe less. But I would look into investing, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, investing in a smaller session to see how it works out in an area of the scar that, like say the worst area of the scar that's widened the most. And what I mean by that, by investing, is if you find a doctor that you think might be a good solution for you for FUE into scar, it's very rare that a doctor will do an FUE procedure for the day for 50 grafts, because there's a cost associated just with opening the doors. And if he's one of these doctors that only does 1 patient a day, then that 50 grafts will probably cost you about $3,000, because he's got to pay his bills just to open the door, right? He's got staff members, he's got all these costs.
We better get the name of that PA. He did a good job.
Exactly. Yeah. Good, good point. But my point is that, you're in a position where your next procedure is the most important one you've ever had, because it determines do or die. Like, is this going to work? If so, we can't risk throwing everything at it at once just to see. Let's take a baby step with this and see how it works out. If it works out after, however long it takes to see, some sort of result, then you can be in a better position to feel confident about, okay, that's something we can do. Let's do another 200 to 300 or whatever the doctor says might be necessary to camouflage that area, and to see, what the doctor thinks about, however many you might need for the crown to make an additional improvement in that region. I would recommend that you go with the bare minimum to make a cosmetic improvement, and cut your losses, because you don't want to keep going back for more kicks at the can to reach an ideal result.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like I said, I've already had 6,000 implanted from hairline just to mid scalp, and I haven't gotten the result that I want there. So 1,000 in my crown is not going to make much of a difference at all. So with that FUE, with a small procedure, possibly just to fill in the scar, they wouldn't necessarily need to shave the back of my head, correct? Because that's just work-wise. That's something I can't do.
Well, okay. So now we're getting into a different issue. So if you can't shave, that limits your options of who you can work with, because not that many doctors will do long hair FUE. There are some individuals that have a very unique take on it. There's one doctor. He's an IAHRS accepted member. I don't work with him. I have talked to him, but he has a very specific take on this that I'm not aware of other doctors do.
Dan Danio in Atlanta,
I think they do.
Right?
But Dr. Dan Danio in Atlanta, he does the entire procedure himself, and he literally goes in with some little scissors, and he snips the hairs so that they're short enough to where he can grab it with his punch, but the rest of the hair is untouched. And he does it all over the entire donor area, so it's not concentrated in one area so that it thins it out, which personally I wouldn't do it as a doctor, because that's a hell of a lot of work. It's going to be backbreaking.
It is a tremendous amount of work. He's extremely dedicated, and he's one of the few guys that does it all himself. And but with that said, he keeps his cases relatively small. You're not doing a 4,000 graft FUE case, but people are willing to come in consecutive days to have this done, especially if they are a person in the public eye or they just cannot shave their head. So he offers a pretty unique service in the industry, which if you're going to get it done and you cannot shave your head, he's probably one of the guys you might want to consult with.
Okay.
And let's not forget, there's Dr. John Cole in the chat room saying that he invented the no shave in 2003. We love you, Dr. Cole. So
John, the reason I brought up Dan is because I knew what I knew that what Joe was talking about. He's part of what we do.
Dr. Cole is also very talented. He knows his shit, so you can consider him as well.
Absolutely.
But
this is a one for all for one situation. I want everyone to know all of our docs.
Yeah. But the point is that you don't have a lot of choices out there, and if you're in a position where you have to limit what the doctor is going to be able to do to fix your issue, then your selection has just been narrowed to a select few.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry that you went through 3 strips. Dr. Haber is a very well-respected surgeon. He has a lot of good results under his belt. You had a lot of grafts, and I know how disappointing it must be to not be fully satisfied.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the actual, the hairline, everything looks very natural. It's just I don't have that coverage that I want. If I hadn't had this done I'll be on my way to a Norwood 6. And even before the procedures, I did the shave the head route, and I hated the way I looked. So,
but that's a good thing to be able to say.
Yeah, they tried.
And I can say that it's a good thing to be able to say that without the procedures, I would have been a Norwood 6. That's a positive.
Right.
And I can speak from, dude, if I didn't have the surgeries, I'd be a Norwood 19 by now. Like, and without Propecia. But that's one of the saving graces about your experience is, okay, you're not a Norwood 6 and you got a little bit of a scar issue you got to deal with. Count your blessings, right? These are things that you can, if you take your time, don't rush into it, be diligent, be logical, and use a little bit of common sense and a little bit of luck, then you'll be able to get these issues squared away so you're a little bit more comfortable with yourself.
That's Joe Tillman, ladies and gentlemen, the original hair transplant mentor. Thank you. Listen, dude, I wish you the best of luck. I hope that, calling the show has helped and given you some, obviously Joe's given you some really sound advice. Remember, surgeries are always a last resort, like Dr. Cole says in the room. Joe is absolutely correct. This is an incredibly important procedure for you. So you want to take your time before you jump into it and really do your due diligence, which you seem to be doing. So that's good.
Yeah. Something that's important. I just don't half-ass it. So I do, all kinds of research that I can. So and I plan on doing it for this one as well.
Well, good man.
But
go ahead.
But just one quick last question, Spencer. With yourself there being a hair loss sufferer, what's it like living out in the most superficial, appearance is everything location on the planet? With all beautiful people around you. How tough is it being a hair loss sufferer out there?
For me, because this is what I do, and I talk about
question.
it. I talk about it all the time, and because I've been able to save a decent amount of hair. In general, it's not that tough, especially at my age. I didn't move out here until I was 36 years old. So really, the worst of it for me was between the age of 21 and 35, or 30. I say 33.
During the dating stages.
Well, no. Now I don't want to get into my personal life, but all I can say is this.
Yeah.
All I can say is this: that it's not a problem as far as my appearance is concerned. The only problem that I have is getting my appearance to where I want it to be, where it takes time. I got to paint my head. It's a lot of hairspray involved. It's a pain in the ass. But because I do what I do, it's essentially self-explanatory. Someone asks me what I do, I tell them, they're like, holy cow, you have hair in your head. I explain it. It's a non-issue, and life goes on. But I would also say that most people my age, at 53 years old, they're fucked up looking. So I'm winning by attrition. So it's kind of hard to ask me, being someone who's older at this stage and still has some hair in his head. But when I was younger, it was much more difficult. But that's a good question.
Well, hey, I'll get off the line, guys. I appreciate the advice as always, and I appreciate everything you guys do.
That makes sense to you? How old are you? You're 36?
Yeah. 36.
Yeah. Listen, when you're my age, you still want your hair, but things change a little bit. And if you're able to maintain the hair that you have right now, and you get to my age, most of your contemporaries aren't going to have hair unless there's a cure.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you'll be okay. All right, man?
Okay, guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Hang in there.
I know that guy's calling me ugly or what. 888-659-3727. Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello.
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 Hey, guys. This is Mike calling from New York.
Mike from New York. What's happening,
Hello, Mike.
man?
Not too much. First time in a long time. Just wanted to go over really quick as far as all these doctors that are on YouTube now that have these amazing videos I'm sure you guys know about that promote their
Wait a second.
practice.
Are you telling me there are doctors on YouTube promoting their practices?
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and it's comforting to see how far it's come with all these transplants and these doctors that do these fantastic jobs. And I'm at an age now, I'm 34, and it's bad up top. It's really getting bad. It's really at a point where I'm thinking about something. And of course, I'm in New York where we have the great Dr. Bernstein, as you guys I know endorse him. And it's just unfortunate. He seems one of the few big names that doesn't have really much on his channel as far as before and afters or even surgery videos. And it just makes me feel uncomfortable to even waste time maybe going for a consultation. He charges him $200 for a consult. I mean, what do you guys take on that as far as, I mean, do you think he's so, that office is just so great that they don't need to do something like that? I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, I would tell you that at this stage in his career, and just the level of online visibility and just, being who Bob Bernstein is, I mean, I guess at this stage, they don't feel the need to have to spend their time marketing themselves on YouTube, because you have to realize, while there's nothing wrong with getting yourself out there, and it's great to be able to educate patients, the only fucking reason these doctors are doing it is to get their names out there, period. Right. They want to market themselves. Some of the biggest marketers and some of the most effective marketers on YouTube are not necessarily, and usually not, the best hair transplant surgeons. There's a couple who are pretty good. There's one guy who is the OG YouTube marketer out of Texas, written a lot of books and stuff like that. Very self-promotional, incredibly articulate. Sounds like you go to this guy, you're going to get your shit done, Now, he hasn't been that involved on YouTube, but he was like the OG YouTuber. And he made his bones on YouTube. And he wasn't, at least at that time, things may have evolved, he wasn't able to produce in the end. And that ended up giving him some bad reviews and stuff like that. So
is this the guy that was talking about, like he was going in depth about angles and direction when he couldn't place angle and directions to save his life?
I would say yes. And there are several, he's involved in, the ICHS and has meetings, and he's involved in textbooks and all kinds of stuff like that. But he was the OG YouTube guy. He's the guy. Yeah. And then there are a couple of other guys who really came out and made it happen. Now, realize that everyone has patients who does decent work that they can get out there on YouTube, or they can show like really powerful. They can create a powerful narrative just by having the patient talk about their experience without you even seeing results. Sometimes that sells people. Yeah. Or hiring a so-called online influencer to talk about their results, when in fact, that online influencer may be, the results aren't that great. But it gives people this narrative and this sense of confidence. So to answer your question, do I think it's important in the 21st century to get yourself out there on these vehicles and these avenues? Yes. Do I think because someone doesn't, that makes them not as good? Absolutely not. And especially when someone is already in their 60s and has already been doing this forever.
And I'll say this, and I'll kind of correct you where you said that we endorse him. I don't work with Dr. Bernstein. I don't. There's no professional association. I don't endorse him on any level. But he's one of the OG doctors out there doing solid work. I have no problem saying that. But I think that the reason why you don't see his videos out there to a great degree is because he just doesn't need to. I mean, the guy is, he's been published like all over the place. He's got this level of respect that I think that not a lot of doctors have because of his position in, was it Columbia or what's the, Spencer, where's he teach or work or, hello?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reading a chat room, which is kind of funny conversation going on. Yeah. He is an associate professor at Columbia.
Columbia, okay, yeah. So there's some doctors that are in a position where they've got the reputation, and that's what carries them. And they don't need to do marketing on YouTube or Twitter or social media in general. And and he's busy. I mean, he's got a busy practice, and I think that he's just one of the few doctors where it just doesn't really make any sense. I think there are a lot of doctors out there that should be on YouTube because they've got the work, and it certainly separates them from the rest of the pack. But they just don't have the manpower and they don't have the awareness to put together a meaningful campaign. But with Dr. Bernstein, I think, yeah, he just doesn't need to. So don't let that kind of sway you. I mean, I think, and you mentioned the $200 for the consultation. I think it's among the best $200 you'll spend because he won't bullshit you. He does have a different view on surgery than a lot of doctors. So it may not be what you want to hear, but
how so?
It'll certainly be a qualified opinion, no question about it. How so? Well, he doesn't like this term, but some people refer to him as being more conservative than other doctors. He prefers the term appropriate, which I completely respect. I think it's a great way of saying it. But I can also tell you that he's not as anxious to take your money as some doctors are. He'll turn you down in as I say, a New York minute, where other doctors will be like, sure, get in the chair, let's do it.
I have read that he'll easily turn you away or say, just go on medication for now, all that stuff. I've read that about him, sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, John. By the way, thanks for Dr. Cole. Thanks for sticking up for my wig. It's just some guy. It's just some troll saying that he doesn't like the way my hair looks tonight. I got to deal with that all my entire life. So, but thank you. Go ahead.
Anyway, so yeah, I hope that answers your question from my angle.
Sure, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm just going to go on. I'm eventually going to do the consult, and I'm sure I'll report back to you guys. And that's basically it. I'm looking at something around. I'm hoping 1,500. It's just would you think that'd be a good amount to do frontal hairline restoration? I'm looking to do with a little bit of density behind that. Do you think
no
that
clue.
sounds fair enough?
Yeah, that's
no, right?
You can't. No one can give you that advice unless they really take a close look at. I mean,
right.
A lot of people do it online. A lot of people do it through images, and they can kind of give you an idea. I am certainly a fan of seeing people in person, and I think it's important that you're going to take the time and spend that money to have a consultation. And I'm going to also say this, and this is controversial, but part of the commoditization of this field is the free fucking no commitment consultation. That if you were going into a doctor's office, you got a problem with whatever, your stomach or your heart or whatever it is, do you think they're going to give you a consultation, the free consultation? They're going to charge you for the visit and say, you know what, you need a heart operation. That's it. And this is what it's going to, this is what it's going to be. These are doctors. They should be charging for their time, and they have cheapened themselves, in my view, by doing this whole free consultation bullshit. And that's why the field is so commoditized, and that's why people don't look at hair transplantation as it really is, a incredibly nuanced, difficult form or discipline of cosmetic surgery. So I just had to get that out there, man. I wish you the best of luck, and that's a great point. But I think, but also the question about 1,500 grafts, is it good? That's like calling into a radio show and some chick asking if her ass looks fat in the jeans. We can't see. We have no idea. We have no idea. Right.
But fair question. But yeah, it doesn't apply. We can't see you. So go see Dr. Bernstein. Pay your $200 or pay his $200. And listen to him closely.
Will do, and I'll report back, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, man. You got it.
Right on.
Thanks a lot.
Take care now. Thank you.
All right. Phone number is 888-659-3727. We do have a line open if you want to call in. That's 888-659-3727. Remember, every time we drop a call, there is a line available. Now, I'm very adamant about this, and there's a lot of doctors who don't like me talking about it, or there's a lot of people in the industry who are, I don't see why doctors would dislike it, but because it's only in their best interest for me to say that I am not a fan of the free consultation, that I would rather see a doctor get paid $200 or $250 so they can spend 45 minutes with somebody themselves instead of having to pay some salesman to do to make that sale. and so they can set a few hours or a day of consultations, and they can get paid for that day for their expertise. Listen, if someone asked me, like, we give you free advice, guys, because this is a show. This is, and I was on the radio for a long time. But if you want to actually sit down with me and get my advice as a professional in this industry, I'm going to charge you. Now, I don't do that, but I would think you'd have to be out of your mind not to. Now, not sadly, but we've been providing people with information through the American Hair Loss Association on a volunteer basis for years, and that's taken up a lot of time. But luckily, we have volunteers who do answer questions. But in general, I just think it's ridiculous, and I just think it cheapens this industry. And that's one of dozens of reasons the industry is in the position that's in today.
I'm to the point where if someone wants me to do a consultation for them, like I've had people say, I'm coming to Vancouver for whatever, can I talk to you? It's like $500. That's I have no time. So if you want me, $500. That's it. So far, no one's ponied up, and that's good. It's had its desired effect.
Oprah, you got me, man. You got me. I'm very self-conscious about the wig right now. Okay, you win. You won. You got me.
Opar 2112. See what you did? See what you did? Do you feel good about yourself now? Huh?
Hurt my feelings. Jeez. Anyway, phone number, guys, 888-659-3727. Again, this is a call-in show. If for some reason we don't get any more calls, I'm calling tonight. I got a buddy that is actually staying in town with me. We're going to go out and get some dinner and enjoy ourselves. I actually was considering not doing the show tonight because I'm a little bit under the weather as well. But I told, Joe and I have just been trying to keep this as consistent as possible. And I think a lot of people would have freaked out if I just put on a rerun. So we are live, guys. Phone number 888-659-3727. We just had 2 lines lit. You guys dropped. Call back, and we'll take your phone call. Joe, give me something, man.
I'm reading what someone's saying. So this guy says he's asking about a couple of doctors traveling globally to do consultations for free. And I said, well, usually, and this isn't for every country, but usually when doctors travel to different countries, they can't charge for consultations if they're not licensed in that country to practice medicine. And then he says, thanks. I find it interesting 2 top-notch surgeons travel globally and assess patients for free, yet you can't show up to another physician's door. They get you for $200. That doesn't make sense. Clarify. Reich for order. Not sure what you're saying.
All right, let's take a phone call.
Please clarify. Yeah.
Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello, this is James speaking. I'm from Sydney, Australia.
Hey.
James.
James, welcome, man.
Yeah. I've watched your guys' stuff for quite a while now, and I'm only a young fella. I'm 20 years of age.
All right.
It hasn't hit me yet. I'm kind of a quiet, sitting on the sidelines guy. Things are all looking very good at the moment. However, I don't know. I think it's a very important thing, and I have quite fair skin. So for me, hair is even more important. I don't know. Looking at Elon Musk, who did his transformation or whatever, you can just see the kind of impact it has. Anyway, I've realized it's important, so I'm always looking at what you guys have to say. However, the thing that concerns me, and this is what I was always interested in what you guys thought, is that I kind of have like Justin Bieber-esque hair. It's kind of like a lot of thin, surfy-ish kind of hair, which to me, not to talk for too long, but just to finish, I've heard from someone that this isn't good because it's a lot of small hair that doesn't give so much. If you do a transplant or this or that, it's quite difficult to keep the illusion compared to, say, a thicker curly hair which covers more space. So I was thinking, am I in for a bad run here? Like, obviously, when the time comes, I'm not really sure when to start, like Propecia or Proscar, because I feel like, you know, I've gone from like juvenile hairline to like maybe Nord 1, but it's like nothing. But yeah, I'm just keeping on top of it, wondering what you guys think on someone who's at the very beginning of the whole process.
Well, I think, and how do you know for sure that you're at the beginning of the process and that your hairline isn't just slightly matured? Because if you're at Norwood 1, that is essentially a full head of hair. Do you notice miniaturization in the hairline? Is there a...
No. It's very full, actually. It's very full. It's just I'm more at the start of it's changed a bit, and it could be maturing. Like it's something that it's gone from a kind of U shape to just a tiny M, which maybe you think is ridiculous. I'm calling. I'm not sure.
No, I understand. There's nothing wrong with being on top of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of my I feel like it is one of those. I look at it as a bit of a battle, and I look at it as something that's best to keep on top of. And yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people out there that are maybe similar situation, maybe older, but you know they're not sure. It's at the beginning. Like, when do you start? When, like, do you wait until it's extremely obvious? Because then you see stuff like you don't realize you've lost hair until you've already lost 50% of it, which to me is, should you err on the side of waiting or err on the side of being proactive?
Well, I can tell you this, just based on the fact that you're calling the Hair Loss Show from Australia, you're not going to wait till you've noticed that you've lost 50% to notice that you're losing your hair. That's how, I mean, you're already focused on it. So I wouldn't even worry about that. What I would just do is just, if it's a concern, if it's something that runs, and again, we are not physicians, cannot give you any medical advice. But if it's something that runs in your family, and I didn't ask you that, I mean, is it on your father's side, your mother's side? Do you have brothers who are losing their hair? Are you there?
For me, it's I predicted that it will happen because I don't know, I feel like that the thin type of hair is the type of hair that tends to go, like, at least from what I've noticed. So I feel like that is something that goes against me, for one. But also for two, yeah, Dad's like he's 61, he's lost he's 6 or 7, but it doesn't, he kind of rocks it. It's not a big thing for him. But his father, very, very early, which was, I was like, oh, but then the other side is not so bad. So I've got a bit of a mixture, but overall I'd say it's, at least in my opinion, and I guess you can never say like for sure, but I'd say at one point or another, it will hit me to some extent.
All right. Well, again, I mean, you don't have a crystal ball, and that's a difficult thing to predict, but it's good to keep your eye on it. But you also don't want it to affect your life in a way where you are, you know, so obsessed by it before, you know, I always tell people this, you know, when a lot of people will catastrophize things when they don't need to be catastrophized. And I don't even know it's a word, but I think it's a word.
It is now.
Yeah. And essentially, you know, I'm the type of guy that has learned, and I'm a lot older than you, I'm old enough to be your father, through experience that you can't worry about shit until it happens, because that's just a waste of your life and a waste of time. If you get to the point where you start to notice even more of a change in your hairline, then there's a good chance that you are starting to progress. If you start to notice that the texture of your hair is changing, if you start to notice that you're unable to style your hair the way that you are currently, and things are just becoming more difficult, or if you start to notice your hair is shedding, then you're probably going through the hair loss process. And that's when you want to focus on it. And that's when you want to speak to a doctor. Now, a lot of guys your age read about finasteride. They're scared shitless to take it, or Propecia. But really, early intervention is the key. The reason I am 53, and I keep saying that, because it's important that people, when they look at me, if they're watching, they see I have, you know, a decent amount of hair in my head. I started losing my hair at 21, and it was noticeable. So the reason I've been able to maintain a lot of hair and dummy it up the way that I can is because I got on this drug early, and early intervention is the key. So, but also you don't want to put something in your body that you don't need. So unless you know that you need it, unless you see the progression happening, then it's kind of like just a wait and see game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you can
for sure.
You can listen
for sure, and I can completely empathize with your perspective on catastrophizing, because it is it is. You guys talked about it many times before, and I'm familiar with your story, so I know that you started early, but you've obviously.
I'm emotionally affected right now because an anonymous guy in the chat room said my hair doesn't look good. Okay, I get it. I totally get it.
But
anyway.
Yeah. But on that note, at least in my personal situation, I'm kind of, I'm pretty happy. Like, I'm pretty good place, pretty happy guy,
That's
like
great.
Honestly, not like I've no qualms of, like, I don't know who's listening, but with whatever, it's all cool. But I do like to watch your guys' things, and I think it's, as I said, my view is always like just keep updated. Look at things like it's not a I would say it's obsessive, but it's anyway.
Listen, I think you have a good attitude. You definitely don't sound like you're a Joe from Staten Island. You probably don't know who he is because he doesn't call the show anymore. But you are a guy who happened to stumble upon our show, and you found it interesting because it's something that maybe has been in the back of your mind, and that's great. But if you enjoy watching the show or listening to the show or whatever you're doing, terrific. I just don't want you to become obsessed with this, but it is important to stay on top of it. And when the time is right, you'll know when to speak to your doctor.
Yeah, because I guess like the question I was asking, not to interrupt you, was it is just that, the Justin Bieber-esque kind of hair. I wonder. So my question was kind of, because you guys have so much experience, and you always say before you always say I'm not a medical practitioner, so what's it called again? The disclaimer. That's right.
Yeah, we're not doctors.
Disclaimer, but you guys have so much experience, which is why I'm asking. Like, combined between the two of you, you've seen so much things, which, at least in my opinion, I value a lot. And it's great to be on the show after, like, looking at it a while. I've seen Joe's stuff for like a year and a half, looking at his YouTube. It's all really interesting, and I like your guys' attitude towards it all. So, I was just calling up just with the question, what do you think of that? Like, if you do have that texture of hair, is it one of those things that it's almost, I don't want to, like, name a name or anything, but, for example, I saw something where David DiMuzio, like, said that, like, I don't want to get into anything, but, like, I know that not to get into some controversy, but, like, if you have that surfer hair or whatever, it's maybe don't even bother. So I'm kind of like, oh, that's like an interesting perspective. I wonder where you guys are at with that. Like, I guess
you're going to see me put the camera on Joe, and I'm going to let him answer this question.
Why me? No. Look, I think that's. And let me just recap. You said he's saying that if you have surfer hair, and I imagine that's quote unquote surfer's hair, referring to some perceived perfect long Patrick Swayze. What was the name of that movie? Canoe. Patrick Swayze. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That kind of hair, then don't worry about it. Absolutely. 100%. The downside with that is I know that some people that may have, perfect surfer's hair, won't stop worrying about it if they're going to worry about it. I mean,
I think his question is, and I have to put it into English for you or help you understand it because you're probably reading the chat. I think what this other guy was saying, that if you have that type of hair where it's wispy and it has a small hair shaft diameter, that having a hair transplant would be a waste of time if you needed it.
Oh, sorry.
Is that
how did I miss that?
Spot on.
Right?
Okay. Sorry, I thought I spoke. I thought I spoke Australian.
I would
sorry.
say here's the thing. I'll give you my perspective. If you have light skin and light hair, even if your hair shaft even if you have a thinner type of diameter or a straighter type of hair, just having that less contrast from scalp to hair makes you a better candidate, and also helps you to overcome the slightly smaller hair shaft diameter. So there's kind of a trade-off there. Now, if you had that type of hair texture and you had really dark hair with light skin, that's going to make your hair transplant more difficult. You're going to have to transplant more hair to get the illusion of density that you want.
Is he talking about diffuse loss?
No, dude. He's talking about the quality of hair that he currently has. Is very lightweight type of hair.
Okay.
The texture of hair. And he was told by David DiMuzio, I think that's his name, that if you have that type of hair, that if you decide to have a transplant, it will never work out.
And he's talking about including the donor, the top, everywhere. Just that general characteristic of hair.
Yeah, essentially this guy's worried. He has Justin Bieber hair. He has fine blondish hair. And he's concerned that if he ever needs a transplant, that he will never be a candidate, based on a YouTube video from someone who's not involved in anything.
Some of the best results I've ever seen were from guys that had blonde, fine hair. It's false. It's completely false.
Yeah, in general, blondes have, and this is
more fun.
That's true. But blondes in general have actually less hair follicles, than guys with darker hair, and that is just the way that it is. For whatever reason, say a guy has 100,000 hair follicles, blondes in general genetically have less, so they actually have less overall density, even if their hair seems thicker. So they have less.
Not to stop you there, but
I wish you would.
In terms of the blonde,
because I don't want to do this anymore. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Not to interrupt, but in terms of the blonde. Yeah, I don't have blonde hair. I just said it was, in terms of texture, it was similar to Bieber. Like, I think his hair's naturally like a brownie color. Like, I'm a light brownie color as well, medium light brown. Maybe like even Joe's kind. Yeah. So that was the question. Just in terms of texture, is it a kind of? I feel like each battle is a bit different, and maybe people with different types of hair will have a different experience. Especially, I've been told I have a lot of shafts per square centimeter, for example, by my hairdresser.
Okay,
so I feel like
did your hairdresser look at your hair with a densitometer, or is he just cutting your hair and saying, "Wow, you got a lot of hair per square centimeter"? Because he doesn't have any clue.
Yeah, that it could be off.
Okay, here's the thing about lighter colored hair compared to like dark coarse hair. Dark coarse hair will have fewer follicles or fewer hair shafts per follicle, or per follicular unit than lighter colored hair. They'll usually have more 3s and 4s than people with darker hair. So what you lack in hair shaft diameter, you make up for in the actual amount of hair that can be transplanted in a single follicular unit as a true follicular unit. As someone with that kind of hair, I mean, my hair itself is fairly fine, but I didn't suffer with a density issue simply because of the way that my kind of hair, maybe your kind of hair, simply grows in the scalp. And so if you're looking for for a general, I guess, approach to your kind of hair, my kind of hair, no, you all sense and purposes, you should be a fine hair transplant candidate, notwithstanding these other issues that need to be considered. But in general, that kind of hair does not make for any lesser of a candidate than anyone else. And in fact, in many cases, that kind of hair can make for a better candidate than other kinds of hair. So I think that...
And stay off of YouTube. I think that's the lesson.
Yeah, and the other lesson is stay off YouTube. But I think that from what I've caught, listening to you talking to Spencer, you don't really need to be thinking about surgery at this point. You need to be thinking about prevention, and even that is questionable based on what I'm hearing. And one thing I was reminded of about your case is a case that I saw in London, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. There's a guy I met face to face, and when he met me, he was like, "Oh my God, it's Joe Tronic," because that's what I used to be known as online, and he was a fan. And he told me, he said, "My dream is to have hair as good as yours." And I thought, that's really nice, but you don't have any hair loss. And this guy thought that he was going bald. When you look at him, I don't know if you know who the actor Sean Astin is, but he was one of the he was Frodo's companion in Lord of the Rings. He has, he's like my age now. He's like pushing 50, and he's got a head of hair that has zero hair loss. That's what this guy looked like, and he was in his early 30s.
He's Rudy.
He's Rudy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rudy from the movie Rudy. He had no need for surgery. He had no need for medication. Nothing. It was hairline down like maybe 4.5 centimeters above his glabella, which is the point in between his eyebrows. Your case sounds like his. I'm not saying that you have that kind of hair, but you're looking for something that might not even exist.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to take another phone call, and I absolutely appreciate the fact that you're calling us all the way from Australia. I just want you to know that I think that it's not stupid that you're preparing yourself just in case. I just don't want you to obsess about it, but you explain that you're not, that you have a pretty healthy outlook. So I think that's great.
And that's what I was leading into is like, just don't worry about doing anything now. Just monitor. If you see changes, go see someone that might be qualified to give you some solid answers, that has a densometer, that can talk to you about propecia and other preventative measures, and take it slowly. But don't worry about it too much, because if it's not an obvious issue, then no one else is noticing it either.
Yeah, and if you're getting advice from anybody on social media, YouTube, if they don't really have any real experience, and if your hairdresser is telling you things, I mean, just when the time is right, go to a doctor. But it may never happen. You never know. Just because your father is losing his hair, just because you have some people in your family, and you've seen some changes in your hair at your age, that change is pretty natural.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be overly concerned, but it's good to be prepared. All right, man?
Okay, well, cheers for that, guys.
All right.
Wish you all the best.
Thanks for calling in.
Cheers. Thanks for the call, man.
Bye.
We'll take one more and then call it a night. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
It's Maury from South Florida.
Maury, what's happening, man?
Maury. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Maury's wigs do not come off.
No, they don't. Yeah. Damn it. Speaking of wigs, Spencer, your wig does look fantastic. So, I don't care what anyone says.
Dude, you are the best, and I appreciate that.
Oh man! Yeah. It's funny. I moved down here, and I'm starting to feel nostalgic for my home. I'm now comfortable in my apartment. And so I'm feeling a little homesick, and so I figured I'd call my two favorite people on the internet, because no matter where I am, you guys are there. So I needed to hear a friendly voice, so I figured I'd give you guys a call.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I think that's really that's really kind of nice, and I'm about to shed a tear, I think. But no, but listen, man, tell me how Florida is, first of all.
Well, it's hot, which actually is a good thing. Getting out there and exercising is a bit of a challenge, but I'm enjoying it. I'm getting a frickin' rockin' tan, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
I've been able to handle the running seems to be doable. Biking seems to be doable. I have a lot of people down here that I know from various stages of my life, and I was kind of hoping to meet up with people, but it just hasn't gelled. It's like we had a tropical storm for Labor Day, so like this big high school reunion didn't materialize. And like I'm reaching out to people I knew like from the music scene from when I was in my 20s, and like my buddy Adam's like, oh no, I really don't do the music scene anymore. I'm more about taking care of my kids and my wife. And like, okay,
Yeah.
and
That's what happens.
It is.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's what happens. That's all
Yeah, it does,
all the Norwoods eventually grow up, man.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that it is.
Well, you and me have that in common. The fact that we still enjoy the single life to a large
fucking
extent.
kids are dream killers, man. That's all I'm going to say.
Mhm.
They are dream killers. And I know that that offends some people, but I've said worse in my life, I guess, on the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not saying I don't like kids. I'm just glad that I made this choice, and I found someone in my life for a very long time who agreed with that choice. And now that I am in my early 50s, actually going towards my mid 50s, I don't have to worry about supporting somebody, some millennial, until they're 50.
I love kids because they make great cheap labor.
That's true. That's true. Listen, I mean, it makes sense to me, like marriage and all that stuff. If you had to live on a farm, whatever it is, but in the 21st century, man, I'm gonna tell you something, guys, and this is totally politically incorrect. I'm giving you a politically incorrect warning. But I was having a conversation with my buddy, and we made the decision, and this is based on, and again, I'm gonna get shit for this, that really in the 21st century, the only people that should probably get married are people who are born with Down syndrome. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
These guys, these people really have a tremendous amount of empathy, and they have a sense of true love and companionship that those without this disorder don't seem to have in general. And they can set their sights, and it'll be a lifetime of love and caring. That's a marriage. You know what I'm saying? I know it sounds very bizarre, and this is going to go all over the internet, but that's how I feel about it.
You know what, Spence? I tend to agree with you, man. It's funny. I came down here, man. I'm spilling my heart out here. Those of you who've heard that there's an old flame that I've been trying to stoke, and that damn thing just won't light. So I've got to get to the tiki bars. I actually went to this really cool biker bar on Saturday, and I saw this amazing band. They were great. But it's funny, man. You got to go stag to music. I had my wingman in New York when I left behind, and so going stag to a bar. Well, that's a different issue. We'll talk about that. But there's this place called, I think it's Richie's Tiki Bar, which I have to check out. And
dude, you just got to own it, man. So. And everyone out there, you just got to own it. You got to walk into a place, and to me, there's nothing better than just going up to a bar, going alone, not going like you're out there to get laid. Just you're going out to have
the biggest guy in the room. Oh wait, that's prison.
Yeah. Never mind. That's wrong talk. But just go out and just enjoy yourself. Get to know the bartenders, and eventually you're gonna make plenty of friends, man. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear, bro. You know what? I needed that pep talk, Spence. That's the main reason I called, to be honest with you.
Just don't sit at the bar for like 6 hours at a time.
That's right.
Yeah. You got to leave after 2. I couldn't do that anyway. Maybe 3.
It depends. It depends. Like if you actually have if you're watching a game.
I was going to say, like a few games are on, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. And also, you don't want to get loaded. So if you're there for a long period of time, mix it up a little bit. Have some ginger ales, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're talking to women, tell the bartender ahead of time. Say it again?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
I said I try to stay away from the sugary drinks when I go to the bar. It'll be like a beer and then a seltzer water is typically what I do.
Well,
and
yeah. Well, and also if you
And
meet a woman at the bar though, you tell the bartender in advance, listen, I really, I can't drink a lot, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So when I say give me another, just pour me an iced tea or ginger ale in a rocks glass, and that's it. She'll get fucked up.
Okay.
You'll be totally together. You know. And I'm not saying you want her to be like out of it or anything like that, but you want her to be a little loose and you want to be in control.
Well, I'm with you there, man, because I'm driving around and I'm just like, because being from New York, I just got myself a car, and I'm just like, I'm super concerned about like not getting a DUI or God knows what. So I'm just like being really, really cautious.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's something, I think it's called, what is it? It's Uber.
Yes.
It's a new thing.
That.
Yeah. So if you're going to drink now, I would suggest do not get in your car, save your gas money, and spend it on an Uber.
Yep, absolutely. Uber's the best.
Yeah.
Uber has changed my life. Uber has given me the ability to drink in Los Angeles.
Outside the house.
Outside the house, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right,
when I went to the biker bar, I had exactly one beer and one glass of water, and watched the band, and there's both of them, and I pissed off the bartender. But that's
and also I'm going to give you some more advice. If you ever get pulled over, especially you're in Broward County.
Yep.
All right. If they asked you how long ago you had a drink, or did you drink tonight, your answer is no.
No.
You never say, well, I had a couple of drinks, or I only had one beer 3 hours ago. You know what that says to them? It's time to give you a DUI. Period. Yeah, that's exactly. It's probable cause. And then, while you have the right to refuse a breathalyzer and to refuse having a sobriety test, which I would advise you do that. So if you do have alcohol in your system, essentially they have to wait 3 hours to give you a blood test. And by then, your alcohol levels can go down. But if as soon as you say you get an in, and then you refuse that test, your car's impounded. You're going to jail no matter what, whether you're guilty or you're not, at least for a few hours. So if you're even considering having a beer, just do yourself a favor, especially in that area. Take an Uber or call a cab.
That's a damn good piece of advice.
All right, man.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's what we're here for. And eventually, maybe we'll do another show that's not related to hair loss, so I can have a little bit more fun.
And we'll sit here with drinks in our hands.
You got to do a. Yeah, I was gonna say you guys got to do like because I mean, let's face it, the whole hair loss thing is, and again, not to take anything away from women who suffer from this, because Lord knows there are plenty of them, but to have like a little man show, that kind of thing. I think that
I would have to get a different co-host. How the fuck would that work?
Oh
no! All right.
No, he didn't.
I was holding back on some more corrections. Okay, I see how it's going to be.
One last thing on the hair front, things are going pretty well. I sent you guys the license picture. Yesterday I buzzed it down to 1.5 just to get everything nice and even again. And I'm looking good. I'm very happy. I'm going to hang back. There's no way I'm going to have even remote time to even consider any kind of procedure for a while, because I'm starting a new job. And, I'm going to take Joe's advice, and I'm going to basically wait until I'm complete at least 9 months on thin, which probably isn't going to be for at least another 5 months. So we'll see how things go,
Well,
I got no complaints.
You sound good. I'm glad.
You sound great.
I mean, I understand being a little homesick, but you'll get used to it. And there's going to be plenty of women and plenty of friends. And the fact that you're not jumping in to have a hair transplant when it wasn't a great idea to begin with for you is great.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for you, man. Keep up the tan.
Thanks, bro.
Keep working out. Have a good time. Don't take too much sun, though. Just enough.
Yep, just enough.
You want to get that vitamin D conversion, but you don't want to deal with solar keratosis and then skin cancer.
Ooh. No.
Now he's like,
Yeah,
No. I'm a believer in the sun. You got these people who are hiding this. I mean, why do you think? I can get into this forever, but skin cancer is on the rise, even though more people are using SPF to cover their skin and hats and all that shit than ever before.
Conspiracy.
And skin cancer is on the rise. Come on, you need the sun.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Speaking of sunscreen, I know that that sunscreen has estrogenic properties. Is that something that I should be worried about when spraying the top of my head? That it could have negative effects on on the stuff that I'm taking, or is that
you might grow head boobs.
Yeah, I would probably I would say try to stick with something as natural as possible.
Okay.
And the problem with that is that's usually some form of zinc oxide. So if you put that shit in your head, there are some zinc oxide products now that they're making that actually will kind of rub on clear, and it has less chemicals. But I'm not going to say it's going to affect you. But I mean, you're putting a lot of chemicals on your skin.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
You can also consider coconut oil, just as if you're not going to be out, if you're not going to be in the sun all day, but going in and out all day. I mean, coconut oil has some properties to. It has like a low SPF rating, just help, and it's good for your skin, and won't cause any issues.
Yeah, he's going to call back and said he did the coconut oil and burnt his scalp, dude.
Exactly, I know.
Yeah, well, I try to go out with a ball cap anyway when I'm dealing with the sun. It's just one of those things where like I'll spray it on my face and on the back of my neck, which means I'm hitting the donor area, obviously, and that's kind of one of the reasons I was concerned. So
I personally wouldn't be concerned about that, but again, we're not doctors. There's been no evidence showing that it's going to cause any issues. So, all right, man. Listen, good luck. Good hearing from you. I'm glad we were able to help you feel a little more whole,
settled.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you guys are becoming my rock, man. So.
All right.
Good hearing from you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, tell the world. Get some bald truth cards and hand them out at the bar.
Okay. Sure.
All right.
Why
man.
the fuck not?
Yeah.
Take care.
Dude, guerrilla marketing. All right, dude. Take care. All right. That's it. Joe, give out some information about some of the wonderful websites and forums who are now embedding our broadcast.
Part of the Bald Truth family. We've got hairlossexperiences.com. It is primarily a UK-based forum, but because it's the interwebs, anyone's got access, and it's actually growing quite fast. They got a large increase in traffic and memberships, and they are among the good people. When I say they, I mean he, the person that's running that forum. I don't think he wants us to give out his name, but he's a repair patient like me, and he's not crazy. He's easy to work with. We like this guy, and he supports our message and allows us to embed this broadcast, this streaming broadcast on his web property. That is hairlossexperiences.com. Go over and say thank you for supporting this broadcast. There's also bellicapelli.forumfree.it, and that is the Italian hair loss and hair restoration forum. It is one of the largest forums in the world. Another great guy, another repair patient that's very easy to work with and supports our message and allows us to embed on his web property. That's bellicapelli.forumfree.it.
And of course, Joe's personal website, hairtransplantmentor.com. You can find all the information you need about Joe Tillman and his journey, and why he is sitting in the chair that he's sitting in, why he's behind this mic today, from his initial fuck up to his triumphs over hair loss.
That's about the only way you can really put it. My initial fuck up,
right?
Twice.
And now a guy with a great looking head of hair who is on a radio show, which is not on the radio.
Broadcast.
Yeah, internet broadcast. That is, I guess it kind of is. We're on iHeartRadio, but that's really an app that people listen to through their car radios and on their phones and stuff.
Radio is just a generic term now, referencing a broadcast.
Radio now is essentially like a
8-track.
Like well, yeah, it's kind of like a what was I going to say? Like a telegram. I mean, it is really it's incredible technology when you think about how they were able to figure out. Wait a second, we can get sound to go across the air, and we can kind of create our own signal and own that area of the air.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's pretty cool.
That fucks me up. I can't even imagine. People are always like, dude, how'd you create what you've created in this world? I'm like, dude, think about what people, I mean, look at the architecture. Look what people do. I couldn't
look
even
at real stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine figuring some shit out like that. That's genius.
That is. That's Tesla shit right there.
Yeah. I'm just kind of smart. Anyway.
Or Marconi, but yeah.
Well, Tesla and Marconi. But that's just like, how do you discover that? How does one figure that out?
Some crazy minds. You know, speaking of broadcasting radio waves, it's like Tesla was broadcasting, transmitting power through the air.
Yeah.
100 years ago.
100 years ago.
And we're just now, and we're trying to get this thing to charge on a pad efficiently.
Yeah,
it's a big fucking deal.
That's true. I will tell you though, and to talk about inventions and not to get off track, this thing has ruined the world. I am sorry.
What are you holding?
My iPhone. Yeah. This has ruined people's lives. It's ruined the world. It is in my opinion. So no one sue me. I'm not just saying this particular brand. I'm talking about having to be attached to these fucking smartphones. And the world, I see these. Yeah, I see the. I'm at the mall. I see this like young couple, teenagers. You know, maybe early 20s, really hot chick. You know, and like nice young guy, and she's sitting on his lap on a bench, and they're on their phones. They're not even talking to each other.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is just fucking ridiculous. And the toxicity that's in this little box, it's out of control.
Kill small village.
Yeah. When I retire, and I was talking about this the other day, and I will. Now, sadly, there's stuff out there in perpetuity. But I may end up changing my name. And I may just cut off everything, every access to social media. I will get myself a flip phone, you know, one of those old people's phones. What are they called? Not Jazzies.
I have no idea.
Jitterbugs.
Jitterbugs, yeah.
And that's it. You want to contact me? You got to actually call me if you have my number, because there will be no way to contact me at all.
I don't think I'd have a phone.
I'm not going to text you. There's not going to be WhatsApp. None of that shit.
It doesn't get to be old. I'm tired of this.
I am fucking tired of it. With that said, it's because of all this technology that I've been able to become and touch so many people's lives. So I do appreciate it for that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, the website's thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Check out thebaldtruth.com. Also, the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, organization that I founded more than 18 years ago. Listen, we believe it's a safe place to start to do your research. We are evolving the organization. We are actually having our first meeting, international meeting next year, joining forces with FUE Europe to really help to change this field. And I'm excited about that. So that's the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. Remember, just because a doctor is on the list, just because a doctor is part of the organization, it doesn't guarantee results. Everybody's got a fuck up out there, or everyone has at least one unhappy patient. That's the nature of cosmetic surgery. So do your due diligence, do your own research, but we believe, and I believe, that this is a great place to start. That's IAHRS.org. Guys, we're not going to take any more phone calls, by the way. A couple guys just called in. American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. You can check that out. I know the site has not been updated since the Civil War, but we are working on that. We get a tremendous amount of people who traffic the site, and also, you know, who are writing us to ask questions. I want to thank all of my volunteers to the American Hair Loss Association. And, one day I will educate people on what a real nonprofit organization is. That means if you're not drawing a salary, if you are not spending money on, sending people on expensive vacations, if you are not accepting donations, and if there's no money coming in and out of your bank account to run it, that's a true nonprofit in the truest sense of the word. It's a 100% voluntary organization where all information is free to the public, and everyone who works with the American Hair Loss Association, there's no personal gain except the love of trying to help people. How's that, Joe?
I dig it. Yes.
All right, guys. Until next time, be strong. God bless. And by the way, check out what is it? Is the FUE magazine has a site now? Is it FUEmagazine.com?
Yeah.
Ask John Cole in the forum.
Dr. Cole, what's the link? Hang on. FUE dash. No, not that one. That's a clinic. Hang on. FUE magazine. Magazine.
Oh, and actually, yeah.
See. Yeah, FUEmagazine.com.
Yeah, check out FUEmagazine.com.
That's embarrassing. Yeah. Yes. FUE
I can't remember what I had for breakfast, dude. It's happening to me. What am I going to do? It's happening to both of us.
Publication is, when's the new publication? It's this week? Next week?
Yeah. Oh, and guys, make sure you subscribe to everything that we do. Subscribe to Joe's YouTube page, which is youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. Go to thebaldtruth.com. Put your email in there. You're not going to get any advertisements. We're not selling your shit. And you'll get updates every time we put something online. No ads whatsoever. You don't have to worry about that. Subscribe to the show on iTunes. I would like to be able to say that we're getting 100,000 downloads a month. I can't do that yet. So I'd like to make that happen.
You mean again?
Well, there was one time that we didn't make those numbers, but that's just not happening right now. But still, you get 30 to 50,000 downloads. That's a good deal. It's a fucking hair loss show. So I feel very grateful that we're able to touch so many people's lives. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you guys so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And the funny thing is that I've learned to overcome it. And I've had a much, I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh, no, it's cool. Dude, let me tell you, it took a long time.
I wanna scream.